Before their wedding in 2013, long before the tearful joy of triplets boys, Emeka and Ifeoma's love was tested. Not by scandal or betrayal, but by doubts, age, and quiet voices whispering from the people they trusted most. They had met in 2010 at a conference in Abuja. Emeka had just relocated from Port Harcourt to lead a major civil engineering project in the FCT. Ifeoma was managing a fashion brand's northern expansion, attending the same networking event at the Hilton. He noticed her first, poised in an emerald green gown, answering questions with the kind of grace that made people pause mid-sentence. He introduced himself afterward, and they had drinks at the hotel bar, talking until the waiters began clearing tables. They dated for nearly 2 years. Weekends were spent discovering Abuja's hidden gems, Jabi Lake, Millennium Park, and quiet evening dinners at Blue Cabana. Emeka, then in his mid-30s, was quiet, deliberate, and deeply introspective. Ifeoma, in her early 30s, was vibrant, full of warmth and laughter. Their chemistry was effortless. But in the second year, Emeka's family started asking the question, "Is she not older than you thought?" His mother, Mama Nkechi, didn't hide her concern. One Sunday evening, after serving her son egusi soup with pounded yam in their family home in Gwarinpa, she said softly, "My son, I'm not saying she's not a good woman. She's beautiful and respectful. But you know how nature works. A woman in her 30s may struggle with fertility. You're my only son. Why not find a younger girl? Someone in her 20s, fresh. So we won't be doing fasting and prayer every month later." Emeka didn't respond immediately. He respected his mother deeply. She had raised him alone after his father passed in '96. But something about the way she reduced Ifeoma to a number made his chest tighten. A few weeks later, his friend Vincent, married with 2 kids, called him aside after a hangout at Beer Bar. "Bro, look and think very well. If you marry this girl and you find it difficult to have kids, will you blame yourself? She's not even pregnant now, and you guys are not using protection. It means something is wrong already." Emeka chuckled, masking the sting. He and Ifeoma had indeed stopped using protection after the first 6 months of dating. They weren't exactly trying for a baby, but neither of them had been worried when nothing happened. Ifeoma would joke lightly, "It's just dating. Babies will know we're serious when we're fully married." Still, those conversations echoed in his mind in the quiet of the night. He started paying attention, watching how his friends' younger wives got pregnant quickly. He read articles, listened to podcasts. The statistics weren't in their favor. Female fertility began to decline in the early 30s. But so what? He knew what he wanted. One Friday evening in early 2013, after a long day, Emeka sat across from Ifeoma in her cozy Garki apartment. They were planning their wedding, flipping through invitation designs and color schemes when she noticed his silence. "Are you okay?" she asked, reaching for his hand. He hesitated. "Some people think I shouldn't marry you because of your age." She froze. He continued, "They say if we've been sleeping together all this time and you haven't gotten pregnant, maybe there's a problem. That a younger woman would give me fewer issues." Ifeoma lowered her gaze. She didn't cry, but her eyes welled. "I know," she said softly. "I've heard the whispers too, even some of my cousins. It's not like I don't think about it. I do, but I believe in us. And I believe when the time is right, we will have our child. I'm not broken." Emeka reached across the table and held her face. "Neither of us is broken. I didn't choose you because of biology. I chose you because you're my peace, my home. We will marry, and we will have children, whether they come from your womb, or adoption or science. I don't care. I'm not leaving you." They got married in September that year at a church in Woods. The wedding was colorful, loud, and full of dancing. Emeka's mother came, though she wore a stiff expression the entire time. Vincent attended too, keeping his doubts to himself. But Emeka never once looked back. Their first year of marriage was blissful. Their home in Lokagoma was filled with art, plants, and the aroma of Ifeoma's cooking. Every night they made love with intention, not just passion but purpose. Sometimes they joked about baby-making shifts. They both believed pregnancy would happen now that they were fully married. But month after month, Ifeoma's period arrived like an unwanted guest. She'd sit in the bathroom a little longer each time, holding the pad in her hand like it was a punishment. Still, she smiled through it. Maybe my womb's just adjusting to marriage, she told herself. Emeka never blamed her. He bought her herbal teas, booked appointments with gynecologists, and always reminded her, this delay doesn't define us. But behind closed doors, Ifeoma often wept into her pillow at night, wondering if her body had betrayed her. And in his quiet moments, Emeka questioned if the voices from the past had been right. But neither gave up. Not then. Not ever. This was the beginning of their long road. Their faith, love, and unity would be tested in the years that followed, but the foundation was strong. Built on choice, not pressure. On love, not fear. By the end of 2014, Emeka and Ifeoma had marked their first wedding anniversary with a quiet dinner at the charcoal grill in Abuja. They sat at a candlelit table, holding hands, sipping fruit wine, and laughing about how fast the year had gone. But beneath their laughter was a quiet ache that neither fully voiced that night. Still no baby. They had hoped, truly believed, that by now Ifeoma would be pregnant. After all, they'd been making love regularly, even during her fertile window, which she now tracked religiously. Every slight cramp, every delayed period gave a flicker of hope, only to end in disappointment. Still, they held on. But while they tried to live in love and patience, others were growing restless. And soon, the questions started coming, not from strangers but from family. One Saturday morning in November, Emeka's phone rang. He recognized the tone before he even looked at the caller ID.
Mamanki.
He hesitated briefly before answering. Good morning, Mama. Emeka. Her sharp, knowing voice came through. How are you and Ifeoma? We're fine, Mama. Everything is okay. There was a pause. Okay. So tell me, she cleared her throat. Has she taken in any sign of pregnancy yet? Emeka sighed, rubbing his temple. He stood and walked toward the balcony to get away from Ifeoma, who was folding laundry in the bedroom.
No, Mama.
Not yet, he replied quietly. There was silence again, longer this time. Then came the words he had been dreading. I told you, my son. You see now? A whole 1 year, and nothing? Even before marriage, there was no pregnancy, and you still went ahead. Emeka tried to interject, Mama, but she cut him off. Listen to me. I know you think I'm harsh, but I am your mother. I carried you in my womb. I know what I'm saying. A younger girl would have given you a child by now. You should have married someone fresh, not a woman already in her 30s battling her clock. Emeka's jaw tightened. His mother's words stung deeper than he wanted to admit. He closed his eyes and took a slow breath. Mama, he said, calm but firm. Ifeoma is my wife. I love her. We are still believing God. This is not the time for blame. But fingers are already pointing at her. Emeka, his mother snapped. Don't pretend you haven't heard. Even during your uncle's birthday, people were asking me quietly if she has a problem. They don't say it to her face, but they're whispering. Don't disgrace me, oh. He clenched his fist. She is not a disgrace, Mama. But how do you know the problem is not from her side? She's gone for tests. I've gone too. Everything is normal. So why no pregnancy? Answer me. Mama, he said through gritted teeth. This call is not helping me right now. I'll talk to you later. And he hung up, the walls closing in. That night, Emeka sat silently in the living room, TV on but volume low. Ifeoma came and sat beside him, placing her head on his shoulder. She called, didn't she? She asked softly. He looked at her. Her eyes were calm, but he could see the wear in them. She'd heard enough whispers, felt enough sideways glances from cousins and neighbors. Even at church, people were starting to offer unsolicited fertility teas and prayer mountains. She said people are pointing fingers at you, he confessed. Ifeoma sat upright. I know. I feel it. Everywhere I go now. Even some of your cousins have stopped being subtle. Forget them, Emeka said quickly, taking her hand. You're my wife. They don't know the half of it. And Mama. She means well, but she doesn't understand. I don't blame her, Ifeoma said, her voice cracking. She just wants a grandchild. And maybe I've failed. Don't ever say that, Emeka said, standing and kneeling in front of her. Don't ever let anyone make you feel less. You're not the reason. We are in this together. If it takes 2 years, 5 years, we'll wait. And we'll fight. But not against each other. Her tears came then, silent and full. She leaned forward, and he held her, right there on the living room floor. In that moment, with the weight of expectations pressing down on their backs, their love deepened. Not the romantic, butterfly kind of love, but the kind built in fire. A love that chose to stay, even when everything around them whispered, give up, walk away. By the beginning of their 3rd year of marriage in 2016, Ifeoma and Emeka's once unshakable faith had begun to bend beneath the weight of persistent disappointment. Month after month, year after year, Ifeoma would mark her calendar, track her ovulation, prepare her body, and wait, only to meet the same bitter red stain each time. What had started as hopeful patience was now laced with quiet desperation. Even the intimacy between them had changed. It was no longer just lovemaking. It had become a routine filled with pressure, counting days, temperature checks, fertility teas, and silent prayers whispered into sweat-drenched pillows. One Sunday afternoon, after a particularly painful service where the pastor preached about the fruitfulness of the womb, and many congregants turned to look at her, Ifeoma sat Emeka down. Let's stop guessing, she said gently. We need answers. Real ones. Let's go to the hospital. Emeka sighed but agreed. He could see she was exhausted, and truth be told, so was he. They had waited on faith. It was time to act. The test results. They began at a popular fertility clinic in Maitama New Hope Specialist Hospital. The building was sleek, the waiting room quiet, filled with couples like them, all holding on to hope in sterile white folders. They ran a battery of tests, full hormonal panels for Ifeoma, ovulation tracking, pelvic scans. Emeka was asked to provide a semen sample, which he did awkwardly in a small room, alone, clutching a specimen bottle with shaky hands. A week later, they sat before Dr. Bako, the senior consultant, who looked at them with the practiced calm of someone who had delivered too many difficult truths. Mrs. Emeka, he began, your reproductive hormones are within a good range. Your scans show no fibroids, you are ovulating, everything looks promising. Ifeoma sighed in relief. Then he turned to Emeka. However, he said carefully, your semen analysis shows a condition called oligospermia. That means your sperm count is low, significantly below the normal range for natural conception. Emeka frowned. Low? What do you mean low? The doctor adjusted his glasses. Your sperm concentration is about 4 million per milliliter. Normal range is 15 million and above. Motility is also low. Only 25% of the sperm are moving actively. Ifeoma reached for Emeka's hand. He didn't take it. The doctor continued, this doesn't mean you cannot father a child, but it will be more difficult without assisted reproductive techniques like IUI or IVF. Emeka didn't speak throughout the drive home. His jaw was clenched, his grip on the steering wheel tight. Later that night, as they sat in silence on their bed, Ifeoma finally asked, what's going through your mind? He exhaled sharply, then looked at her with something between frustration and disbelief. I don't believe it, he said. That report. I don't trust it. Ifeoma blinked. Why? Emeka hesitated. Then, for the first time, he shared something he had buried for years. Back in school, I got 2 girls pregnant. One had an abortion. The other one had a miscarriage, but she was definitely pregnant. That was more than 10 years ago. How can they now say my sperm is low? It doesn't add up. Ifeoma's lips parted slightly. This was new. She had never heard this part of his past. So, you're saying you can't have low sperm count because of those pregnancies? Yes, he said, almost defensively. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I know what I did. I've gotten someone pregnant before. Twice. So this test? Maybe they mixed it up. Or something changed. I don't know. Ifeoma's voice was calm, but firm. That was over a decade ago, Emeka. Your body changes. Lifestyle, stress, age, even environmental toxins. Those things affect sperm count. He didn't respond. He just stared at the wall, as if searching for a loophole in the reality. Then she said something he wasn't ready for. What if you are the reason we haven't conceived? Not me, you. Can you accept that possibility? That hit him. Not because it was cruel, it wasn't. It was the truth, wrapped in grace. 3 weeks had passed since Emeka had read the fertility report that changed everything. Despite the apology, despite the warm nights wrapped in shared determination, a lingering doubt still haunted him. He would sit in silence in the evenings, reviewing articles on his phone, Googling things like, can sperm count fluctuate? Or, false oligospermia diagnosis? Or, can stress affect male fertility tests? The weight of the result clung to his ego like a shadow that wouldn't leave. Somewhere deep inside, he still hoped the doctors had made a mistake. One Saturday morning, as the sun streamed gently through the curtains of their bedroom in Lokagoma, Emeka turned to Ifeoma, who was sipping her tea and scrolling through her phone. I want us to go somewhere else, he said. She looked up. Somewhere else. Another hospital. A different specialist. Maybe in was or even outside Abuja. I need a second opinion. There was a beat of silence. Ifeoma studied his face carefully. You still don't fully believe the first result. Emeka didn't answer directly. He set his mug down and looked at her with soft eyes. I want to be sure. For both of us. I don't want to live with a maybe hanging over my head. I need clarity, Ife. She nodded slowly. Okay, then we'll go. 2 weeks later, they walked into the Bridge Fertility Clinic, a smaller but highly respected center in Was 2, known for its discreet handling of infertility cases and its team of internationally trained specialists. Dr. Fadik Ogundipe, a firm yet compassionate woman in her 40s, welcomed them. We don't just treat patients here, she said. We walk the road with couples. Emeka and Ifeoma both repeated their tests, every scan, every hormone profile, every analysis. Emeka was more involved this time, asking questions, researching supplements, even keeping a journal of his lifestyle change. The wait for results was agonizing. The day they returned to hear the findings, Emeka held Ifeoma's hand tightly in the cold consultation room. The air was thick with quiet tension. Dr. Ogundipe smiled politely, flipped through her file and began. Mrs. Emeka, your test results are consistent with what the previous hospital found. Hormones, ovulation, uterus, everything looks good.
No fibroids.
You are ovulating regularly. There's nothing from our side that indicates a major block to conception. Ifeoma smiled faintly, though she had heard those words before. The doctor turned to Emeka. And for you, sir, the semen analysis still indicates oligospermia with mild asthenozoospermia, low motility. Slightly improved compared to the earlier report, which is good. It means the changes you've made are working. But you're still far below natural conception range. Emeka's throat tightened. So it's confirmed then? He asked slowly. Yes, Dr. Ogundipe said. At this stage, you may be able to improve it further with strict supplements, exercise, and nutrition. But realistically, IVF with ICSI, where we directly inject a healthy sperm into an egg, is the most promising option. He stared at the floor, saying nothing. That night, Emeka sat alone in the living room, staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the soft hum of power from the inverter. Ifeoma joined him, her hair wrapped in a scarf, wearing one of his oversized t-shirts. She sat next to him. So, now we know for sure. He nodded. Yeah. You did what you needed to do. Now we move forward. He looked at her, really looked at her, and in his eyes was the humility of a man who had been stripped of every excuse, every defensive wall, and yet felt freer than before. I think, a part of me kept hoping they were wrong, that maybe I was still the guy I used to be in school. But I guess time changes us. I'm not who I was back then. She reached for his hand. Less of a man. I feel like I've failed you, Ife. She turned to face him fully. You haven't. If anything, you've shown me strength. Real strength. Take strength to face the truth. To own it. To fight through it. I didn't marry you because of your sperm count, Emeka. I married you because of your heart. He smiled through wet eyes and pulled her into his chest. Emeka and Ifeoma finally stood at the beginning of a new phase, the treatment phase. Their path was now clearly laid out by Dr. Ogundipe and her team at the Bridge Fertility Clinic. They would both go on medication. They would both prepare their bodies. And they would walk it together. It was no longer her trying to conceive. It was them both fully invested, both fully submitted to the process. Emeka's sperm boost journey. Dr. Ogundipe handed Emeka a brown envelope filled with prescriptions, lab schedules, and a printed list titled Male Fertility Enhancement Protocol. His medication included CoQ10, zinc sulfate, vitamin E and C, folic acid, Clomid, in small doses, Wellman conception capsules. He looked at the list, overwhelmed. I'm not used to taking this many pills, he mumbled during the car ride home. Ifeoma chuckled from the passenger seat. Now you know how it feels to be a woman. He shot her a mock glare, and they both laughed for the first time in weeks. But the journey wasn't lighthearted for long. Every morning and evening, Emeka set a reminder on his phone. He had to stay consistent. Pills after breakfast, supplements before bed, water always nearby. He also adjusted his lifestyle. He cut down drastically on caffeine, began eating fresh fruits and vegetables, and reduced fried foods. He even switched to loose boxers and avoided hot showers. For the boys, he joked. What surprised him most wasn't the pills, it was the effect. Within 2 weeks, he noticed something strange. His libido spiked. His energy increased. His morning erections returned with a new intensity. He began waking up early without alarm clocks, feeling motivated, alive, and, oddly, more confident. I feel like I'm in my 20s again, he told Ifeoma one morning, rolling over with a sly grin. She smiled. Let's test that theory tonight. Ifeoma's fertility medication roller coaster. While Emeka was dealing with his pills and vitamins, Ifeoma had her own journey, more complicated and emotional. Her body was already healthy, but the doctors wanted to increase her chances of producing multiple mature eggs for IVF. Her prescriptions included Clomid, for ovulation stimulation, estradiol, to thicken the uterine lining, Dufastin and progesterone, to prepare for implantation, metformin, to regulate insulin and hormones, daily folic acid, vitamin D, and prenatal vitamins. Unlike Emeka's supplements, hers came with side effects: hot flashes, mood swings, fatigue, mild cramps. There were days she cried without reason, mornings where she didn't want to get out of bed, nights where her head pounded like a drum. I feel like I'm carrying emotions I can't explain, she confessed one evening, curled up on the sofa. Emeka pulled her close. Let it out. I'm here. He learned quickly to be extra patient, to read her silences, to understand her sharp tones weren't personal. On difficult days, he brought her hibiscus juice and held her while she napped. On better days, they walked around their estate in the evenings, praying softly and dreaming out loud. By the 4th month of their treatment journey, Emeka and Ifeoma had fully committed themselves to the process, body, soul, and wallet. The medications were not cheap, especially Emeka's. The sperm boost supplements he had been prescribed were imported, highly recommended, and came with a price tag that made his heart skip each time they bought a new batch. One bottle of his antioxidant blend alone cost $80, and he was taking 3 different supplements alongside it. Add to that the lifestyle adjustments, organic food, gym sessions, acupuncture appointments, all to help his sperm levels rise. They were draining their savings, dipping into their emergency fund, and Emeka had even delayed a car upgrade just to keep up with the costs. By the time they returned for the new round of tests in early June, both were expecting better news. But when Dr. Ogundipe sat down with them, her voice carried a different tone. Emeka, there's some improvement, yes, but it's not as much as we hoped. Your count has increased only slightly, from 4 million to 4.8 million. Motility is still below optimal range. Morphology is unchanged. Emeka leaned back in his chair, stunned. But I've been taking everything. I haven't missed a single day. I know, the doctor said gently. And I can see you've made a lot of effort. But sometimes the response is slow, or the underlying issue is deeper than supplements can fix. He glanced at Ifeoma, who was already blinking back tears. Can we change the medication? Try something stronger? He asked. Dr. Ogundipe shook her head slowly. You're already on the most aggressive supplement protocol we have. You can continue, and there might be gradual improvement, but we can't guarantee significant changes. When they left the hospital, the silence in the car was heavy. Abuja's traffic moved around them like a blur, but inside the car, it felt like time had stopped. Ifeoma didn't say a word the entire drive home. That night, Ifeoma sat on the edge of their bed, staring at her drawer. Inside it were her medications: Clomid, Letrozole, Dufastin, and Estradiol, each with its own strict dosage, each timed carefully based on her cycle. The doctors had warned her. Too much Clomid could thin her uterine lining. Too much Letrozole could disrupt ovulation entirely. But desperation had taken root in her chest. The news that Emeka's expensive treatment wasn't producing the needed results had shaken her. Deep down, she feared time was running out. Her cycle was getting shorter. Her body was already under pressure. What if she was the only one left to push harder? That night, after Emeka had gone to bed, Ifeoma opened her medication and took double her usual dose of Clomid. The next morning, she took extra Letrozole. By the third day, she had added an additional estradiol tablet, convincing herself that a thicker lining would increase her chances of implantation. Whenever that time came, she didn't tell Emeka. She couldn't, not when he was already beating himself up, not when he had already questioned his own manhood. But her body noticed quickly. Within a week, Ifeoma began experiencing intense headaches, blurry vision, and abdominal cramps. Her mood swung wildly. One minute she was sobbing in the kitchen over a broken plate. The next she was yelling at Emeka over the AC remote. Emeka noticed something was off. "Babe, are you okay?" he asked gently one evening. "I'm fine," she snapped, folding laundry roughly. "You don't look fine. You're sweating and it's barely 7 a.m. "I said I'm fine," she yelled, tossing a shirt onto the floor. He backed off, giving her space, but that night, he caught her in the bathroom, crouched over the toilet, nauseous and pale. He rushed in and held her up. "What did you take?" he asked, panic rising in his voice. She didn't answer. "Ifeoma, what did you take?" Through clenched teeth and teary eyes, she whispered, "I doubled my meds." His chest tightened. "Why would you do that? Do you want to collapse? Do you want to end up in the hospital?" "I'm tired, Emeka," she screamed. "I'm tired of waiting, tired of trying, tired of watching you spend so much on pills that aren't working. If you won't respond, then maybe I can force my body to work." Her sobs broke through the house like thunder. "I just want to carry a child. I just want to feel something kick inside me before it's too late." Emeka sank to the floor beside her. He reached for her hand, his own eyes wet. "Ifeoma, don't do this to yourself. Don't fight biology with desperation. If we hurt ourselves in the process, what's left of us?" She slumped into his arms, shaking and exhausted. A needed pause. The next day, they returned to the hospital. Dr. Ogundipe noticed the symptoms right away and asked Ifeoma gently if she had altered her dose. She nodded in shame. The doctor looked at both of them with compassionate firmness. "You are both fighting so hard," she said. "But there is a difference between persistence and self-destruction. Overmedication can destroy the very womb you're praying will carry life. Ifeoma, your estrogen levels are dangerously high. We need to pause your cycle immediately. Let your body rest." For 2 months, they were told to take a break. No medications, no procedures, just rest. Emotional and physical. It was the hardest thing they had to do, to wait again. But in that pause, they found something they had nearly lost. Each other. It was in the 5th year of their marriage, during the early months of 2018, when Emeka received a call from his mother that immediately stirred worry in his heart. "Emeka, my son, it's urgent. Please come to the village. I need to see you face to face." Her voice was unusually soft but laced with urgency. Emeka, who had just returned from a site inspection in Abuja and was exhausted, still didn't hesitate. He respected his mother deeply. She had raised him alone after his father's death, and even though their conversations often led to painful tension about his childless marriage, he had never stopped honoring her. He told Ifeoma about the call. "She said it's urgent. I don't know what it's about," he said. Ifeoma nodded gently. "Go. I'll be praying." So Emeka packed a small bag and drove down to Nui, their hometown in Anambra State. The drive was long and quiet, his thoughts restless. The last time they'd been in the village together, his mother had hardly spoken to Ifeoma. The atmosphere had been thick with unspoken disappointment. When he finally arrived at his mother's compound, the warm scent of rain on red earth welcomed him. Mama Nkechi was already waiting at the veranda, seated in her usual wrapper and head tie, her Bible resting beside her. "Naem, welcome. You look tired. Let me get you something to eat." "No need for food, Mama. You said it was urgent." She sighed and motioned for him to sit down. There was silence for a moment. Then she began carefully. "Emeka, 5 years and no child. I have kept quiet long enough, but I can't anymore." Emeka tensed but stayed silent. She continued, "There is a young girl here in the village, Nena. Her parents are decent people. She's about 22, very respectful, strong, fertile. I've been watching her grow since she was a little girl. I believe she would make a good wife for you." His heart sank.
Mama, no.
"Let me finish, please. I know you love your wife. I know she's a good woman. But what if God is trying to show you another way? You're my only son, Emeka, my only child. If you die childless, our name dies with you. I can't go to the grave with my eyes open. Let me help you. You can marry her quietly. Just take her as a second wife. Let her give us a child." Emeka stood up. His voice was calm, but firm. "Mama, I will not do that." She looked stunned. "I will not betray my wife," he said. "I will not sneak around. Marry another woman like Ifeoma is not enough. She has stood by me, prayed with me, cried with me, suffered these 5 years with me. You want me to throw that away because you're afraid? You don't understand." Mama Nkechi's voice rose. "People are laughing at me in the village. They call me Mama Emeka without grandchild. Even at church, they ask me when I'm going to do my omugwo. My mates are carrying their grandchildren on their backs. I understand," he said gently. "But adding another woman isn't the solution. We are working with doctors. We are trying. It's not as easy as you think. But we believe that children will come at the right time. And when they do, they will come through Ifeoma." His mother shook her head, frustrated. "So you will just keep waiting? What if she never gives you a child?" Emeka looked her in the eyes and said, "Then I will still love her, and we will adopt or raise children another way. But Mama, I will not disgrace my wife because of pressure." There was a long silence. Mama Nkechi finally sat back, staring at him with a mixture of disbelief and grudging admiration. "Your heart is stubborn, like your father's," she muttered. "But you are also a good man. I learned from you," he said, kneeling before her. She sighed, placing a hand on his head. "May God reward your patience. May He hear your prayers. Just don't let time pass you by." "I won't, Mama. But we will walk this road as husband and wife. Together." A seed of respect. When Emeka returned to Abuja, he didn't immediately tell Ifeoma what had happened. But she could tell something had shifted in him. "You're quieter," she said that evening. "I just saw how much pressure you've carried," he whispered. "And I want you to know, I'm standing with you, no matter how long it takes, no matter what anyone says." She looked at him with trembling lips, tears pooling in her eyes. "What happened in the village?" He looked at her and smiled faintly. "Mama made a suggestion. I turned it down. I told her she'd get her grandchildren, but only through you. She broke down and wept, not from sadness, but from deep relief. That night, for the first time in a long time, they didn't talk about hospitals or hormones. They just held each other and whispered prayers of gratitude, for loyalty, for love, for one more day to believe. A few months after the trip to the village, Emeka and Ifeoma made a decision together one quiet Sunday afternoon, while seated on the balcony of their flat in Gorimpa, Abuja. The wind was calm, but their minds were restless. "We've tried 3 hospitals already," Ifeoma said softly, her fingers nervously picking at the edge of the throw pillow. "I know," Emeka replied, "but I keep feeling like maybe we haven't found the right one." There had been too many conflicting reports over the years. Some said her womb was fine. Others said his sperm was low but not too bad. Another said stress was the main cause. They'd been tossed around in a cycle of half-truths, contradictions, and confusion. This time, they were referred to a reputable fertility clinic in Was2, one known for being more thorough and experienced in complex cases. The consultation alone cost $80, and the advanced tests would cost even more. But they didn't flinch. They were used to spending for hope. A month of tests. Over the next 4 weeks, both Emeka and Ifeoma underwent a full panel of investigations: hormone profiling, HSG, hysterosalpingography, scrotal scan, semen analysis, and pelvic ultrasound. Ifeoma had to lie still for 25 minutes during the HSG test as a dye was pushed through her fallopian tubes and monitored by imaging to detect any blockages. The procedure was painful, deeply painful, but she endured it in silence, clutching the edge of the hospital bed, sweat dripping down her spine. Emeka did his semen sample in a quiet, dim room at the clinic. The anxiety never got easier even after 5 years. When they finally sat across from the consultant fertility specialist, the mood was serious. The doctor, a calm man in his 50s, adjusted his glasses and laid out their results on the desk. "I'll be completely honest with you both," he said. "These results explain why natural conception has not occurred." Emeka sat up. "Okay, doctor, go on." The doctor pointed to Ifeoma's scan report. "Your HSG shows bilateral tubal occlusion. Both fallopian tubes are partially blocked. That means even if you are ovulating, the eggs can't travel freely, and sperm may not reach the egg. This severely affects natural fertilization." Ifeoma blinked. "So, what does that mean? Is it possible to open the tubes?" "Sometimes," the doctor nodded. "But in your case, the blockage is not complete, but severe enough that it reduces your chances dramatically. Tubal flushing might not work. Even if it did, the risks of ectopic pregnancy increase." Then he turned to Emeka's result. "Your semen analysis shows Algost henoderatozoospermia, low count, poor motility, and abnormal morphology." Emeka sighed and looked down. The doctor continued, "Even with timed intercourse or IUI, the chances are extremely low. Based on these findings, you will not be able to conceive naturally. I'm sorry to say that bluntly, but it's important you understand." A thick silence filled the room. Ifeoma tried to form words, but her throat was dry. Emeka stared blankly at the doctor's desk. He had thought his lifestyle change, diet, and medication had helped. But this diagnosis was worse than anything they'd heard before. "So, what's the way forward?" Emeka asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "There is still hope," the doctor said. "You are strong candidates for IVF with ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. With ICSI, we take a single healthy sperm and inject it directly into an egg. That bypasses both the tubal issue and the sperm quality issue. It's expensive, but many couples in your exact situation have conceived through it." "How much are we looking at?" Ifeoma asked, already bracing herself. $1,500 to $2,000, the doctor said, "including stimulation drugs, egg retrieval, fertilization, embryo culture, and transfer." Emeka rubbed his forehead. That was more than they had anticipated. Far more. "I'm not forcing you," the doctor added gently. "You can take some time to think about it. But the earlier you start, the better. Age is a factor too." Chapter 22. the silence at home. When they got home that evening, neither Emeka nor Ifeoma said much. The house was quiet except for the hum of the standing fan and the occasional honking from the street outside. Ifeoma went straight to the bedroom and sat at the edge of the bed, eyes fixed on the floor. Emeka eventually walked in and sat beside her. "So now we know," she whispered. "Yes, now we know. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just you." He nodded slowly. "It's both of us." Her hands trembled slightly. "Do you still want to do this? IVF?" He placed his hand over hers. "Yes, with you. I don't care what it costs. I've come too far to back out now." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. "You still believe?" "I have to," he said, his voice steady. "I believe in us. We will become parents, by God's grace and medical science." She leaned into his chest, sobbing quietly. That night, they didn't talk about how they'd raise the money. They didn't plan anything yet, but they held each other tightly, like people who had walked through fire and still chose to walk hand in hand. By the time 2020 came around, 7 years into their marriage, Emeka and Ifeoma had become warriors of hope. They were no longer the carefree couple they had once been in Abuja, making jokes in traffic and spending weekends at Jabi Lake Mall. Life had hardened them. Their love was still there, but it now had scars. They had decided, after much prayer and counsel, to proceed with the IVF plus ICSI treatment the doctor had recommended. The cost was staggering $1,800, and it had to be paid in stages. So they sacrificed everything. Emeka sold off his old Toyota Camry to add to their savings. He started taking on extra jobs beyond his normal architectural work, supervising late-night construction jobs, working weekends, even borrowing a little from a close friend. Ifeoma also stepped back from her boutique business and took on administrative contract work just to keep income flowing. Their joint account was depleted. At one point, they didn't even have enough to fix their bad washing machine. But they smiled through it all, because this was the cycle that would give them their baby. The procedure begins. In June of that year, the process began. The clinic administered ovarian stimulation injections to Ifeoma for 2 weeks. Every evening, Emeka would wipe the alcohol swab across her skin and give the injection, whispering softly, "This one is for our baby." Her body bloated from the hormones. Her mood swung in painful extremes, and her abdomen became sore, but she kept going. Emeka continued his sperm-boosting supplements and avoided alcohol completely. He even went vegetarian for 2 months, hoping it would help his body produce healthier sperm. The day of egg retrieval, they managed to get 8 mature eggs. It was a success, but the next morning they got a call from the embryologist. "Sir, out of the 8 eggs, only 2 fertilized successfully." Emeka's heart dropped. "Only 2? "Yes, sir. The sperm count and motility were still very low, and most of the sperm didn't survive the ICSI injection. We did our best." Still, they clung to hope. 2 embryos. That's all God needed. They prayed, fasted. Ifeoma even stopped watching television and spent nights kneeling by her bed in silent prayer. Her mother called every day to check in. Emeka's mother, though skeptical, had backed off her pressure after his confrontation 2 years earlier. The embryo transfer happened in early July. They watched on the screen as the 2 tiny dots were released into her womb. It was surreal. Life so small, so fragile. Then came the hardest part, the 2-week wait. The call that shattered. Ifeoma tried not to overthink it. She rested, ate well, slept early. Emeka didn't allow any bad news in the house. No sad movies. No negative headlines. Just worship songs, laughter where they could find it, and whispered dreams about what the baby would look like. On the 14th day, they returned to the hospital. Ifeoma gave her blood sample and waited in the waiting room, fingers clenched so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Emeka sat beside her, his leg bouncing nonstop. An hour later, they were called into the consulting room. The doctor's face was gentle, but his voice broke like glass. "I'm sorry. The result is negative. There was no implantation." Felt like the room spun. Ifeoma blinked.
No implantation?
"But we had 2 embryos." The doctor continued. "Yes, but they did not attach. Likely due to a combination of factors, your endometrium was thin during transfer, and the embryos may not have been viable enough, especially with the poor sperm motility. Emeka's jaw clenched. So we have nothing now? He asked, voice strained. The doctor nodded slowly. I'm really sorry. Ifeoma stared blankly at the floor. For the first time in her adult life, she felt completely hollow. Cracks in the foundation. Back at home, silence wrapped around them like a second skin. Ifeoma lay on the bed, still wearing the loose hospital gown from earlier, not moving. Her hair was messy, her face was swollen from crying, but her eyes were dry now, drained. Emeka stood at the doorway, guilt carving into his chest like a blade. I'm sorry, he whispered. She didn't respond. I thought this would work, he added. I did everything I could. That's when she finally turned to him, her voice hoarse. I know you did, but I'm tired. He sat beside her. We'll try again. We'll find a way. With what money, Emeka? She snapped, her voice rising for the first time in years. Do you want to sell your shirts? My earrings? You think I haven't prayed? Haven't bled enough? He swallowed hard. We can take a break, just for now. We can rebuild. Try next year. Ifeoma sat up slowly, her voice now breaking. What if there's no next year for me? I'm 38. Emeka. My eggs are aging. My body is tired. My spirit is tired. I don't even know if I'm a woman anymore. He grabbed her hand tightly. You are. Don't say that. You are more than. But I'm not a mother, she screamed, finally collapsing into tears. 7 years, Emeka. 7 long years. I have begged God until my knees gave out. And for the first time in years, Emeka cried too. Quiet, shaking tears. The next day, Ifeoma woke up with puffy eyes. Her heart still sore from the previous day's devastation. But she refused to lie in bed and sink further. She got up, showered slowly, and told Emeka she needed to clear her head. I just want to go to the market. Maybe stop by ShopRite, she said quietly. Emeka looked at her, unsure. Do you want me to come with you? She shook her head gently.
No.
I just need air. She left the house wearing a simple kaftan and carried a small bag. Her heart was heavy, but she forced her body to move. An unexpected meeting. At H-Medics, while reaching for a pack of tissue paper, she heard someone say her name. Ifeoma? She turned and blinked. A tall, dark-skinned woman with braided hair and a bright smile stood across from her. It's me, Ngozi, from Faith Secondary School, Benin City, class of 2001. Ifeoma's eyes lit up in disbelief. Oh my God, Ngozi, you've changed. They both laughed and hugged tightly, a rare moment of joy in weeks of sadness. I heard you were in Abuja, Ngozi said, but I didn't know we'd bump into each other like this. They chatted briefly, and soon Ngozi asked the inevitable question. So, how many kids do you have now? The air shifted. Ifeoma's smile faded slightly. She looked away and replied softly, None. Not yet. Ngozi noticed the shift but didn't show pity, just calm understanding. I know how hard that journey can be. I struggled too. For 5 years. Ifeoma's brows lifted. You did. Ngozi nodded. Yes, I went through everything, hospital to hospital, prayer houses, teas, injections, you name it, until I met someone that changed my story. Who? Ifeoma asked, leaning in, genuinely curious. Dr. S.A. Oriefo, Ngozi said with a knowing smile. She's based in Benin City, brilliant, warm, rooted in both science and compassion. She's helped thousands of women across Nigeria conceive, even the so-called hopeless cases. That name, Oriefo, struck something deep in Ifeoma's chest. She paused. Wait, Oriefo. Yes, Ngozi replied. Her full name is S.A. Oriefo. You've heard of her. Ifeoma stared blankly for a moment, her mind spinning. Suddenly, a memory from her childhood surfaced, blurry but unmistakable. When she was 13, after she started menstruating, she had a strange complication that led to her being taken to a private hospital in Benin City. The doctor who treated her and performed a minor procedure, something about clearing a blocked vaginal canal, was Dr. Oriefo. A kind, soft-spoken man with gentle hands and deep eyes. Her mother had said, "Dr. Oriefo is one of the best. God used him to help you. I think her father treated me years ago." Ifioma whispered in disbelief. Ngozi's eyes widened. "You're kidding." "No. I remember. He was gentle, kind. He helped me. That name is not one I'd forget." "Well, it makes sense now," Ngozi said. "The daughter is following in his footsteps. Some say she's even better." Ifioma's heart began to beat faster, for the first time in a long while, with real hope. "How can I reach her?" she asked eagerly. Ngozi smiled. "Simple. She responds best via Instagram. Send her a direct message on her professional page at MD People's Doctor. Don't worry. She'll reply within 72 hours. "She handles it herself?" Ifioma asked, surprised. "She does. Or her team will schedule you. But she takes personal interest in cases like yours. Just tell her everything. Be honest." Ifioma nodded, already reaching for her phone to jot it down. "Thank you, Ngozi. You have no idea what this means to me." "I do," Ngozi said, holding her hand firmly. "Because someone told me about her once too, just like I'm telling you now. That one conversation changed my life." That night, Ifioma returned home with more than groceries. She came back with a spark of hope that refused to die. She told Emeka everything. For the first time in weeks, he saw light return to her eyes. They sat together that night and drafted a heartfelt message to it at MD People's Doctor on Instagram, praying it would reach the right hands. And in her heart, Ifioma whispered, "Lord, if this is the path, open it wide." 3 days after Ifioma sent the message to it and People's Doctor on Instagram, just like Ngozi said, they got a reply. It was a short but warmly professional message. "Hello, Ifioma. Thank you for reaching out.
I'm Dr. S. Oriefo.
I understand you've been trying to conceive, and I'm so sorry for the journey you've had. I'd be glad to help. My consultation fee is $40, which covers an in-depth review of your case and recommendations tailored to you and your partner. Once payment is confirmed, we'll proceed. Warm regards, Dr. S.A." Emeka read the message twice, then turned to Ifioma. "It sounds serious. Professional." Ifioma nodded. "Let's do it." Within an hour, they had made the payment, and Ifioma sent the receipt. Less than a day later, they got a follow-up email with a detailed intake form and a list of medical tests both of them needed to provide. The required tests. The list was clear and comprehensive. Hormonal profile for Ifioma, FSH, LH, prolactin, AMH, TSH, progesterone, estrogen. Pelvic ultrasound scan. HSG, to confirm tubal blockage. Semen analysis for Emeka, done within 2 to 5 days of abstinence. Sperm culture and morphology. STI panel, for both. It took them almost 2 weeks to run all the tests at a reputable diagnostic center in Abuja. The cost was another heavy bite out of their finances, but they were determined. This time felt different, more guided. When they submitted the results via email, Dr. S.A. responded 2 days later with a voice note. "Hello, Ifioma and Emeka. I've gone through your results carefully. Thank you for trusting me with something this personal. I want to be honest with you. Ifioma, your womb is fine, your hormones are okay, but your fallopian tubes are partially blocked. That's manageable. But the main issue is Emeka's report. His semen analysis shows azoospermia, that's a 0 sperm count. Not low. None were found in the sample provided. Silence fell in their home like a blanket of shock. Now, I know this may be hard to hear," Dr. S.A. continued, "but azoospermia doesn't mean he can't ever produce sperm. Sometimes it's obstructive, sometimes it's hormonal. But based on the morphology and his testosterone levels, this is non-obstructive azoospermia, meaning the sperm production is deeply suppressed. That doesn't make him less of a man. It simply means his body needs serious internal stimulation and boosting." Emeka sat still, staring at the phone in his hand like it had betrayed him. "But I got someone pregnant back in school. he whispered. Ifioma looked at him, pained. That was over 15 years ago, Emeka. The good news, Dr. Esse added in her message, is that I've handled cases like this before, many times. Some have gone on to conceive naturally or through IVF. But first, we must wake his system up. I'll be sending you a 60-day fertility booster kit designed specifically for men with 0 to low sperm count. It's intense.
No alcohol, no smoking, no processed foods.
He must rest well, avoid stress, and take every capsule as prescribed. At the end of the voice note, she said something that left them speechless. This isn't a miracle product. It's rooted in clinical science and deep experience. But it will only work if you follow the protocol strictly. If you're ready, I'll prepare the kit and send it to Abuja. Ifioma replied immediately, "We are ready. Please send it." The fertility boost begins. 3 days later, a small black box arrived at their home, neatly packaged and labeled. Men's Fertility Intensive Boost. Inside were daily AM and PM capsules, a liquid herbal tonic, a dietary guide, a sperm-boosting vitamin powder blend, a schedule printout with reminders. There was also a handwritten note inside from Dr. Esse. Emeka, this is your assignment. Give it 60 days of strict commitment.
No shortcuts.
I believe in your body's ability to recover. And I believe in you.
Dr. Esse.
Ifioma stared at the note and blinked back tears. This was the first time in their 7-year journey someone addressed him directly, with hope, not shame. They hung the schedule on the kitchen wall. Every morning and evening, Ifioma measured the doses, set alarms, and watched him drink even the bitterest tonic without flinching. 2 months, Emeka said, swallowing hard. We'll give this everything. And Ifioma nodded, whispering a quiet amen. 2 months into the fertility boost regimen, something had changed in their home. It wasn't just Emeka's improved appetite or the steady flush of color in his cheeks. It was the energy, the quiet hope that had begun to fill the cracks that once held only disappointment. Each morning, Ifioma checked off his dosage schedule like a nurse. She made him smoothies rich in zinc, vitamin C, maca root, and tiger nuts. And at night, they prayed, not for a miracle, but for a sign that this effort wasn't in vain. Then came a follow-up semen test in Abuja. They dropped the sample at the lab with trembling hands. The result came out 3 days later. Sperm count, detected, low, but present, motility, weak, morphology, abnormal but improving. For the first time in nearly 5 years, Emeka had a massive boost in his sperm. They didn't scream. They didn't even cry. They just sat in the car outside the lab, holding hands in silence as the weight of that single word, detected, settled into their hearts. Later that night, over a quiet dinner, Ifioma looked across the table and said softly, "I want us to do the IVF in Benin, in Dr. Esse's hospital." Emeka paused, spoon halfway to his mouth. Why Benin? Why not here in Abuja? She looked down, then met his eyes. I trust her, and not just because she's good, but because of the name. Oriefo, her father treated me when I was just a girl. I didn't even know what a womb was back then. But he helped me. That name saved me once. I believe it will again. Emeka nodded slowly. Then we go to Benin. They reached out to Dr. Esse that same night. A week later, their bags were packed. 2 large suitcases, a cooler for medications, and a small travel bag stuffed with nerves, prayers, and fragile faith. Their friends thought it was a vacation. No one needed to know. Dr. Esse had arranged everything. A temporary furnished apartment had been secured not far from the People's Medical Center, nestled in GRA, Benin City, a serene neighborhood filled with trees, quiet streets, and the scent of fresh rain. When they arrived at the hospital on a Wednesday morning, Ifioma's breath caught in her throat. The building was calm and modern, white walls, glass panels, a peaceful courtyard with a single mango tree in the center. Inside, the floors gleamed and the staff moved like clockwork. Gentle, efficient, warm. They were ushered into Suite 5A, and there she was, Dr. Esse Oriefo, in person. She stood to welcome them with a bright smile and a firm handshake. "Ifioma," she said, her voice familiar and soothing. "And Emeka, you made it. Thank you for seeing us," Ifioma said, voice cracking slightly. "We're ready to begin," Emeka added. Dr. Esse smiled and sat down across from them, flipping open their file. "Let's start with blood work and follicle scans today. We'll do another semen analysis as well, same protocol, but now here under our care. The IVF journey is delicate, and we tailor each case. But I'll be honest with you." They both looked up. "You've come at the right time. I see improvement already. It's not perfect, but it's workable. We'll go ahead and prepare for IVF. Let's aim for egg retrieval in 12 days, depending on Ifioma's stimulation response. We'll give it the best shot possible." Settling into Benin. Over the next week, Ifioma and Emeka fell into a quiet rhythm. Every morning, they went to the hospital for scans, hormone injections, and updates. Every evening, they walked through the quiet streets of GRA, holding hands like a newlywed couple again. They stayed in the small furnished apartment arranged by the clinic, simple, clean, with a working air conditioner and a balcony that caught the evening breeze. Ifioma journaled every single injection. Emeka didn't miss a single appointment, even when his back ached from sitting too long. Sometimes, they'd sit by the hospital courtyard after scans and talk quietly. "Do you ever think, maybe this is where our story was always meant to lead us?" Emeka looked around at the garden. "If it leads us to a child or even peace, then yes, I believe it." In Benin, far from the whispers of neighbors, the side eyes of relatives, and the silent ache of Abuja, they found something unexpected, a renewed version of themselves. And as they approached the egg retrieval day, they knew deep in their bones that whatever the outcome, they had finally come to the right place. The journey through IVF at the People's Medical Center in Benin had taken nearly a month from start to finish. There were moments Ifioma felt like her body was not her own. Multiple injections, blood tests, ultrasounds, monitoring. Hormone levels were checked almost daily. Emotions ran high. One minute, she was calm and optimistic. The next, she was crying into Emeka's shirt over a needle prick that didn't even hurt. But through it all, Emeka was by her side. Waking early, rubbing her back, holding her hand during egg retrieval, and praying silently every night before bed. Fertilization and transfer. The doctors had retrieved 11 mature eggs. Of those, 8 fertilized successfully with Emeka's now improving sperm. Out of the 8, 3 strong blastocysts formed by day 5. The medical team recommended transferring 2, but Ifioma surprised everyone. "Please transfer all 3, she insisted. "Let God decide." Dr. Esse looked at her gently. "Are you sure? You know the risks, multiple pregnancies are high risk." Ifioma nodded without blinking. "This is our 7th year trying. Let's give everything." Emeka hesitated at first, but one look at her, full of determination, faith, and grace, and he nodded too. "All 3, he said. "Let's go all in." The 2-week wait after the transfer was the slowest time of their lives. Ifioma felt cramps, bloating, strange twinges. She took it easy, no stress, no heavy lifting, no trips outside unless necessary. On the 12th day after the transfer, she couldn't wait anymore. She quietly slipped into the bathroom at dawn, took a home pregnancy test, and waited. 2 bold pink lines. She stared at it for what felt like a full hour. She took a picture, wiped her eyes, then opened the bathroom door and walked straight to Emeka, who was still half asleep. She placed the test in his palm. He sat up, stared at it in silence, then looked at her with teary eyes. "Ifioma, it's positive?" She nodded slowly, mouth quivering. "Yes, Emeka, we're pregnant." They hugged tightly. 8 years of waiting, of pain, of near divorce, of doubt, of whispered insults behind their backs, all melting into that one embrace. Dr. Esse insisted on a blood test to confirm. 2 days later, the beta-HCG result came in, 3,615 myo/ml. "That's a strong number," Dr. Esse smiled during the video consultation. "This is a solid pregnancy. We'll do a scan in 2 weeks to confirm gestational sac and how many embryos took. The ultrasound, a revelation. By the 7th week of pregnancy, Iphioma lay down on the scanning table, her hands trembling. The technician dimmed the room, applied the cold gel on her belly, and moved the probe gently. Almost immediately, the screen lit up with 3 tiny flashing spots. Heartbeat, heartbeat, heartbeat. The technician paused, zoomed in, then whispered, "Madam, you're carrying 3 babies." Iphioma's heart stopped. "Sorry? Did you say 3? "Yes, 3 sacs, 3 heartbeats, all measuring fine." She burst into tears, not quiet sobs, deep, body-shaking cries of joy. She turned her face toward the ceiling, whispering, "Thank you, Jesus, thank you." When she left the scan room and saw Emeka sitting outside, she couldn't speak at first. She simply handed him the ultrasound printout. He stared at it, confused, then turned it toward the light. "Wait, is this 3? She nodded. 3 boys, Emeka, triplets. He dropped into the chair behind him, mouth wide open. God gave us back all the years we lost." That night, as the rain fell softly over Benin City, Iphioma and Emeka lay on their bed, hands resting gently over her belly. "We prayed for 1," she whispered. "He gave us 3, because he heard all our silent nights," Emeka said, eyes full of wonder. And for the first time in years, they slept. Not with worry, but with peace, knowing that the long wait was over, and their home would soon echo with the cries, giggles, and footsteps of 3 little boys. Their testimony was still unfolding. Pregnancy, as Iphioma had dreamed it for years, had always been romantic. A gentle glow, tiny fluttering kicks, a rounded belly caressed under soft lighting, the occasional sweet cravings. Reality, it was anything but. A whole new Iphioma. From her 8th week, Iphioma began changing. Her once favorite perfume, vanilla oud, suddenly made her gag. The jollof rice she always begged Emeka to bring from that famous Abuja buka, now it smelled like kerosene to her. She cried when Emeka didn't arrange the pillows right on the bed, then cried again because she felt guilty for yelling. One minute she wanted oranges. The next, the smell of citrus made her furious. She could go from smiling to snapping within seconds. Her body didn't feel like hers anymore. Her belly was stretching fast, her back ached constantly, and sleep became nearly impossible, especially by the 2nd trimester. She began hating her mirror. "I feel ugly," she whispered one evening, sitting on the edge of the bed in Benin. "My nose is spreading. My face is fat. My body is just..." Emeka knelt in front of her, gently cupping her swollen feet. "Iphioma, you're carrying 3 kings. You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life." She started crying again. This time, tears of love. Emeka's steady hands. Through it all, Emeka was her rock. He learned how to measure her blood pressure. He downloaded pregnancy apps to track fetal growth. He even joined a virtual expectant fathers WhatsApp group, where men shared pregnancy hacks and vented about mood swings. He cooked, cleaned, massaged her legs at night, and stayed calm when she accused him of chewing too loudly. When she couldn't sleep, he would lie beside her, placing his palm over her belly, whispering to the triplets, "Hey boys, calm mummy down, okay? Let her rest tonight. You're going to need your strength soon." The final stretch. By the 32nd week, Iphioma's body could barely keep up. Her baby bump was huge, tight and round, and each movement from the boys felt like a little football match going on inside. She was constantly short of breath, often uncomfortable, and walking became slow and wobbly. The doctor scheduled a planned C-section for week 34, given the multiple pregnancy and her growing exhaustion. She was scared. "I've never been in an operating room," she whispered to Emeka the night before. "What if something happens to me?" Emeka held her close. "Nothing will happen. You've come too far. God brought us this far. He'll take us all the way." Delivery day, a house full of kings. The operating room was bright and cold. As the surgical team prepared, Emeka stood by her side, masked and scrubbed, holding her hand. The chief doctor was there, calm and confident, overseeing everything. The spinal block was administered. Ifioma couldn't feel her lower half, but she could feel the tugging, and then, first baby out, crying, "It's a boy!" Tears filled her eyes. Second baby out, crying strong, "Another boy!" Emeka squeezed her hand. Third baby, "Oh, he's kicking already, he's definitely a boy too." And then, the sound that had once only existed in her imagination filled the room. 3 babies crying. At once, triplets. 3 beautiful, healthy boys. She broke down in tears as the nurses placed them one after the other on her chest. Briefly. She couldn't speak. Emeka couldn't stop smiling. They named them Chimali, God has one. Ezenika, good mother's child. Obinna, father's heart. Recovery and reflection. The following days in the postnatal ward were surreal. She was sore, exhausted, leaking milk, and trying to breastfeed 3 hungry babies. But she didn't complain. Every time she looked at them, 3 perfect boys. She knew the pain, the long wait, the hospital visits, the failed IVF, the doubts, the whispered insults, had all been worth it. Emeka stayed with her, learned how to swaddle, change diapers, rock them to sleep. He never left her side. When they finally got discharged and returned home with their miracle sons, the gates were already open, waiting. Friends, neighbors, church members, and even the security man from next door had gathered with excitement. But no one stood more eagerly at the gate than Mama Emeka. The moment she saw them, Emeka carrying a baby bag, Ifioma looking radiant but exhausted, and 3 tiny bundles swaddled in soft blue blankets, her knees buckled, and she burst into tears. Jehovah! My God has done it! She ran forward, ignoring her arthritic knee, and reached for the babies. She kissed their foreheads, hugged Ifioma tightly, and pulled Emeka into an embrace. "Thank you for not listening to me," she whispered into his ear. "Thank you for standing by her. These children, these are our reward." Mama moves in. By the next morning, Mama Emeka had unpacked a bag and was officially living with them. She took control of the kitchen, made pepper soup for Ifioma's recovery, boiled bitter leaves for postpartum cleansing, and soaked hot water towels to massage her daughter-in-law's belly. At night, while Ifioma and Emeka struggled with the triple cries, Mama was there, rocking one baby, singing lullabies in Igbo, whispering blessings under her breath. "Children who come after many tears always bring multiple laughter," she'd say. The house was noisy, no doubt. Bottles clinking, babies wailing, lullabies playing on repeat, and sometimes the sound of Coco Melon echoing through the living room. But it was a noise of joy, a long-awaited, hard-earned joy. Fast forward to 2025, the boys at 4. Today, in 2025, the triplets are 4 years old. Chimali, Ezenika, and Obinna. Their home is a beautiful chaos. The boys have their own language, sometimes mixing English, Igbo, and random words only they understand. They run barefoot around the compound, ride bicycles, and fight over who gets to sit closest to grandma during story time. Chimali is the calm one. He loves puzzles and always wants to pray before meals. Ezenika is the loudest. He talks from morning till night and often tattles on his brothers. Obinna is the explorer. He climbs on everything, even the kitchen cabinet if you let him. Mama Emeka, now 66, still stays with them on and off. She has a new spring in her step, wearing her glasses around her neck, and always telling people proudly at church, "I have 3 grandsons, triplets. You can call me Mama Ime Otto, mother of 3 miracles." Ifioma, though still juggling motherhood and work from home consulting, beams with grace. She often catches herself watching the boys play and whispers, "God, thank you." Emeka has grown too. He's no longer the man who once doubted doctors or feared his mother's pressure. He's a proud father who knows how to make school lunches, attend PTA meetings, and discipline gently but firmly. Their home is filled with framed pictures, One from the day they left the hospital, another from their first Christmas, and more recent ones of the boys holding for balloons on their birthday. Every toy scattered across the floor, every crayon mark on the wall, every muddy footprint on the tiles, is proof that the long wait was not in vain. And every time someone asks, "How do you cope with triplets?" Ifioma just smiles and says, "When you've cried for years, the sound of 3 little feet running toward you is not noise, it's answered prayer." Kindly like, share and subscribe for more amazing stories.